Tottenham manager Ange Postecoglou there with White and Jordan, an Australian Simon Jordan at the start. What's the end goal, mate? I wasn't expecting that at all. What do you make of those comments, Harry, where he's saying basically, I don't really want a quick fix trophy. I don't want it to just be, we win the Carabao Cup and then we don't win anything else for 10 years. And instead I want to win year after year, year after year. What do you make of that comment from Ange Postecoglou?
I understand it. I think at a club like Tottenham where trophies have been hard to come by, there's always going to be that pressure to go out and win something. And whichever manager does that first, if it ever happens, will obviously go down as a hero at the club and stuff. But I understand what Ange Postecoglou's saying, right? Because football's changed and we've got to realise that. Rival fans will always go, well, Tottenham don't win anything. Tottenham don't win anything. But actually to Daniel Levy, to the ownership of the football club, it's more valuable to be in the Champions League every year. It's more valuable to qualify for the Europa League every year than it is to win a League Cup or an FA Cup, just financially speaking. And ultimately, that's what the club will be looking at. That will be deemed a success to the club if Tottenham are a constant in Europe again. So what we think a manager should be setting out to do is not always in line with what the ownership are asking for, what the leadership at the club are asking for. And Ange Postecoglou, I think, has brought something to Spurs which they've been missing for a long time under first Jose Mourinho and then Antonio Conte. And that's excitement around the way they play. You know, Arsenal had Unai Emery at the club for a little while, and there were times where I couldn't stand the football. And I realised and really understood at that point what the value is of turning up to watch your team every week, knowing you're going to be entertained and knowing that you're going to get to see them at least trying to do the right things. Might not always get the result, but I think having that excitement around your team, there's a lot to be said for that. And sometimes there's more value in that than saying we won a League Cup. So I understand where Postecoglou's going with it. I understand there's probably part of him that is trying to quash the pressure a little bit around winning a trophy. He doesn't want it to be a big thing. He'll be desperate to go and win a trophy. Of course he will, because of what that means, because of the status it will give him at Tottenham Hotspur. But he's also conscious of that being the narrative and of that being a pressure that players have to shoulder throughout the season. So I think there's a bit of that there from him. I think he is trying to just manage that expectation around trophies.
You know what, you're right, because I listened to the full interview. It was brilliant. He spoke so well. You can listen to it. It'll be on my YouTube channel. You can catch up on the talkSPORT app as well. But he was really emphasising the point that he was there to change the style of play, to change the way that Tottenham actually are on the pitch. And I thought that was really important because there were so many Spurs fans last season who actually were kind of sick of the narrative of, we've got Conte, he's a born winner, he's going to win us trophies. And they were like, but is this the actual football we're playing? Because we're not winning and it's horrible to watch. And they were kind of there like, I will take anyone else as long as they try to change that style of football. So I think for Spurs fans listening to that, they must have been delighted to be sitting there and thinking, finally, we've got a manager who's actually concerned about the way that we're playing football. It was funny, actually, as well, Harry, because I was there for talkSPORT for that game against Fulham where they were knocked out. And I asked a similar question to Jim, where I just said, look, do you have any regrets about, the 9 changes you made in that game? And he literally just looked up at me and went, never regret anything in life, mate. I've got a bit of life advice as well from Ange Postecoglou. I was hoping he did the same to Jim as well. But one thing I might say about the Carabao Cup thing, though, was that I did think I do think he's quite good at deflecting the attention away a bit, because I think that was a bit of a disappointment for Spurs fans, and it was a clever answer where he says, look, I'm actually building something else here. And it's not a crisis that they got knocked out. It's hard to go to Fulham away as well, but I don't think winning that trophy would have been that kind of quick fix that he talked about. I think it would have been maybe potentially a springboard for this Tottenham team. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it could have been, but I still think the chances of winning that trophy are not as big as people would have you believe. Very often, we talked about this trophy as the one that Tottenham can win, the Carabao Cup, the League Cup. How many times over the last few years have Man City won that?
Yeah, but mate, they've got Newcastle away, so don't worry about it. They'll get knocked out in the first round.
But they're still the benchmark, and there's only a handful of trophies, and there's a select group of clubs that win them over and over again. And so there's no guarantees that if they get through Fulham, that's Tottenham winning a trophy, and that's them putting an end to the trophy drought. So Ange Postecoglou is deflecting a little bit, but that's what good managers do. Good managers control the narrative themselves. They don't let the narratives build and fester and take over. And that's what Postecoglou's doing. He's making sure that he's taking control of the situation and saying, well, the trophies isn't the be-all and end-all for us at this moment in time, so don't judge us solely on that. And by doing that, he's bought himself a bit of breathing space. Look, Spurs fans will have been disappointed that they crashed out of it, or that they at least didn't give it a better go and go further in the competition. But he hasn't been in the job long. No. And if he doesn't take the opportunity to have a look at some of those so-called fringe players in the League Cup, where's he going to do it?
Yeah.
So I kind of understand his sort of conundrum there a little bit as well. But
and we've seen some of those players actually move on as well now, because he's had a look at them and he thought, right, I'm done with that. But yeah, I think...
and also as well, they got knocked out by a Premier League club. It's not like they went to a League Two side and got embarrassed and knocked out. That's the bit you got to sort of throw in for context, I think, as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, Fulham away is a very tough place to go. Now, be honest, because you're a huge Arsenal fan. Do you like Ange? Be honest. Be honest now. Do you like him as a bloke, as a manager?
Yeah, take the fact that he's the Tottenham manager out of the equation completely, and I do like him as a coach. Yeah. I like the way he plays football. I like the way he, I think, comes across as a warm character at times, which is what you kind of need to get your players to buy in. But also, he can be a little bit prickly as well when he needs to be, and he shuts down things in the media that he doesn't like. So I like it. I think he's got the right balance. I thought he did a really good job at Celtic. Okay, people will say winning stuff at Celtic isn't a big deal, but it's the way they were playing, it's the way they were doing it, that really, really impressed me. And I always think managers that go and work in different countries are brave, and they take a lot from that. You know, Roy Hodgson's a good example of a manager that's been around the block, been to different countries, picked up different things, and in the end has got to a point where he's probably punching above his weight in terms of the club he's got. Palace never in trouble under him, etc., etc. I'm not saying that the expectation at Palace and Spurs should be the same, but Postecoglou's done that too. He's gone to Japan. He's managed in Australia. He's managed at international level as well. And now he's landed in the Premier League, I think, with plenty of experience behind him, and that should serve him well.
Yeah, must be love, 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 Harry. You're loving Ange so much.
Don't.
Just very quickly. He was also asked by Jim White earlier on. Jim kind of said, what's the ceiling for Tottenham this season? And he just he came back and said, I don't like ceilings, I don't like floors. And it was quite, it must live in quite a weird house. But with Spurs, what do you think the expectations should be for the fans this season under Ange and the way they're playing?
I think it's about establishing a base from which they can build on over the next few years. I mean,
so where should they finish, do you think, this season?
Top 7?
Or where do you think... And Spurs fans would be happy with that, top 7?
They might not be happy with that. I don't know. I can't speak for them. But I think that if they finish top 7, top 8 and play good football and the signs are more positive than negative and there's just signs of progress there, I think that will be enough to keep the Tottenham fans engaged for a bit longer with Ange Postecoglou. Losing Harry Kane was obviously a negative, but it's also taken a lot of pressure off with regards to what Spurs are expected to do this season. So I think that might be a bit of a blessing in disguise in that sense. So yeah, top 7, top 8, they'd be happy. Listen, if they got top 6, they'd be absolutely buzzing with that. First season, lots of change, new to the Premier League in terms of Postecoglou. I think that would be a good campaign too.
I think they could push it even further than that, I've got to say. I think they've started very, very well indeed, but it's very early on, as we know.